The film which you are about to see is an account of the tragedy which befell a college student in Canada. Originally attending school at the University of Waterloo in Waterloo, Ontario, Canada, 22-year-old Kenton Carnegie was studying geological engineering and thus was able to get an internship with a uranium mine named Point's North Landing, which itself was located in the northeast of the Saskatchewan province, in the middle of the wilderness, surrounded by lakes and wildlife, such as black bears, moose, caribou, and of course, a species of gray wolf, along with the only close city being near them, located around 2 hours away. As soon as he arrived, Kenton was warned about venturing off too far from camp that the miners were staying at. But from time to time, he would want some time to himself in nature, so every once in a while he would get permission to just walk around the edge of the camp for a bit. And so on November 8th, 2005, after work around 5:30 p.m., he wanted to go on one of his nature walks, and so after getting permission, he then got ready and told one of his friends that he would only be gone until 7 p.m., right before supper time. As he walked past the open field right outside the camp, he could feel the cold air on his nose and cheeks as his feet walked past the snow that covered the ground. Kenton was able to make it about half a mile or a kilometer outside of the camp when he made it to one of the shores of the many lakes around him. After taking the scene in just a little, he then turned around and looked to the tree line and decided he would venture in just for a little bit. As he reached the forest though, he realized that something was watching him. It was a single wolf, only a few feet off to the side of him. The wolf didn't seem like too much of a threat at first, as it was just watching him. But nevertheless, Kenton kept his eyes on him, as he knew that wolves in the area have been known to get a little aggressive, especially as they know that a food source is near, as the camp can sometimes be a little messy at times. So Kenton decided that he wouldn't tempt fate and decided to turn around and head back towards camp. Though as he turned around, he noticed a second wolf appeared just outside of his peripherals. And this new wolf had just positioned himself between Kenton and the only route back to the camp. Now knowing what they were trying to do and knowing that there would soon be more wolves joining in, he then began to become a little scared. And unknowing to him, it turns out the wolves had been tracking him since he left the camp and were following close behind ever since. Turns out one of the wolves were following in his boot prints while the rest of the pack were paralleling his movements in the tree line as to conceal their movement. Essentially, Kenton had walked right into a trap and now it was too late to get out. And as the sun was starting to set more and more, it was starting to get dark outside and Kenton started to panic. And in doing so, made one of the worst decisions of his entire life. He ran. He first tried running in a half circle around the wolf that was between him and his escape route back to camp. Going through the tree line though, he was struggling a bit, and as the two wolves were chasing him down, they were suddenly joined by two other wolves, one on each side of him, as they chased him down. As Kenton was running, he started to open up his stride a little bit more in order to run through the snow a little bit more effectively. But just as he was doing so, one of the wolves closed in and bit Kenton on his thigh, splattering blood all over the snow, and simultaneously sending all the other wolves into a frenzy, as they all took the opportunity to jump on him at once. And as he tried his best to free himself and get back to his feet, one of the wolves would clamp down onto Kenton's calf muscle that was on his right leg as another one bit down on his right hand. Kenton was then able to break free and run away a few feet before he was then caught again for a second time. He again started punching and kicking as hard as he could in order to get away, but all in vain. Though as he was fighting, his blood would then begin to pool under him in the snow. Terrified and fighting for his life, Kenton was able to escape a third time, but was quickly caught again. Kenton kicked and punched the wolves as much as he could until one of them came up behind him and tackled him to the ground. And as he got up and turned around to attack the wolf that had just took him down, another one would run out from his blind side and took him down once again. Luckily, Kenton was then able to escape a fourth time, but knowing that they were close to a kill, the wolves were now in an uncontrollable frenzy and were quickly able to overcome him once again. Unfortunately this time though, Kenton was exhausted and horribly out of breath, and at this point his adrenaline, which had pretty much kept him going this whole time, was beginning to wear off. And just then, one of the wolves had run up and bit Kenton on his nose, sending a shooting pain through his entire body. And though he was staying strong, covered in head to toe with bite marks, his blood was starting to pool beneath him once again. He then turned to kick one of the wolves that had encircled him, but then lost his footing and fell to the ground. And unfortunately, it would be at this point that the entire pack jumped on him and tore into his body until eventually he stopped moving, sadly ending his life right then and there. Meanwhile, back at the camp, Kenton's friend that he had told that he was leaving noticed that Kenton never returned back from his trip. So by the time 7:30 p.m. hit, him and some of the other co-workers had took a pickup truck and went down to one of the nearest lakes to see if he was okay. Once they got there though, they saw the wolf tracks, and knowing something bad could have happened, they went back to the camp and grabbed their rifles just in case. Once they were able to make it back to the lake, they were then able to locate Kenton's mangled body. Luckily though, the wolves had already left by this time, though as they arrived, they could clearly hear the wolf pack howling in the distance. A few of the men then raced back to the camp in order to get help to recover Kenton's body and help document the accident for the police. As they returned to the site and started loading into the car in order to bring it back to the camp, one of the members remembered seeing two sets of glowing eyes staring back at them from the wood line, but decided to pay it no attention. As the investigation was being conducted, most of the wolf tracks had disappeared from the co-workers trying to recover the body. And since no one had actually witnessed the attack, the coroner concluded that Kenton died from a predatory attack, but didn't want to say that it was for sure a wolf attack. The authorities then opened the investigation up to a jury, and since black bears were in hibernation at this point, and all other predators in the area other than gray wolves hadn't been seen for at least a month up to this attack, so it was concluded that there could only be one animal that killed Kenton. And although it was dubbed a horrible loss by the authorities and experts, they all concluded that it was still safe to work up there in the Canadian wilderness without too much to worry about. Kenton's parents then set up a memorial scholarship in his honor at Waterloo University, and made it their mission to point out that the biologists at the camp had failed to notice that the wolf pack's dependence on human food had made them lose their natural fear of humans. The camp would later then erect an electric fence in order to keep out the wolf and black bear populations. Though unfortunately, several years later, another man would be attacked by a lone wolf as he was taking a break outside, though luckily he was able to survive. So unfortunately, the authorities would finally order all nearby wolves shot, and food disposal systems must be installed in order to prevent further killings. And with that being said, may Kenton Joel Carnegie rest in peace. Let me know in the comments, what would you have done if you had found yourself in his position and you were being hunted by a calculating predator? And once again, thank you for watching. Remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons and turn on the notification bell for more content in the future. Goodbye for now.